All right, I forgot to start recording, but here we go. Read this and just pause and then resume. Okay, here we go. An array is a fixed size sequential collection, I'll even spell collection correctly the second time, of elements of the same type. And what you do, the way you'd make an array of test scores is you say int, and then you have open and close square brackets. That tells Java we're talking about an array. And you name the array, and you say how big it's going to be. So this is declaring an array of 100 test scores. And then now we can access scores, square bracket 0 equals 99, scores, square bracket 1 equals 78, and so on. Now it's still, you have to somehow assign the scores to the elements in the array. But this highlights a couple of things. I want to pop over to my Word document in just a sec. But the thing to get is you say int, and then open and close square brackets. That tells Java we're doing an array. And then you do the variable name, just like you were doing a regular variable. And then you say new int, and then square brackets, and say how many elements they're going to be. You can't change that after you create it. So you can't say, I really want 101. You'd have to make a new array that's 101 and then copy over all the elements one at a time. A little bit of a hassle, but it's doable. Over here, wrong screen. Hello. Guess I shut it. Here it is. I said we got a sample array scores. I'll change this to 100 so it matches what I just did. Let's imagine there's code not showing putting the scores in. That's why I put a comment here. This is a way to think about it. The very first element is item 0, and then there's a score in there. And the second element is item 1, all the way to, in our case, it would be 99. Yeah?
So it only goes 99 since you're counting 0?
Yeah. In fact, I could do this and then do 97, 98, and 99, and we'd be better off in terms of, and let's put a ... here, right? We got other things going on. So think about it as if you've used Google Sheets, or I'll expose that I'm an old person and say Microsoft Excel, which is what people used to use before there was Google Sheets. I still use it. You've got these cells, and stuff is something's in each one. What's interesting about arrays is they have a default value. They're not just for ints. So let's write some things down. Arrays have default values. Ints and doubles are set to 0. Strings are set to null. Yeah. Null. Booleans are set to false. Just good to know. For me, it's a little confusing when I first learned this. The way it works, you can create an array, and then you can access one of the elements in the array, even though you haven't put something in there. And you're like, what? But that's because they just said, hey, we're going to just make them all 0, because you may want to set them all to something else, but 0 is a good logical value if it's an int or a you got to set it to true or false. It's got to be one or the other. Might as well just set it. So let's go back here, and let's do string array called names equals new string. I'm just going to say we're going to have a five element array, and I'm going to say names 0 equals. Oh no, I wanted to print it. I wanted to just tell you system.out.println names square bracket 0. Let's run this, see what happens. So see how it prints null? That's because we made a 5-element array. All the little boxes where things are going to go are empty, Java, instead of crashing when I try to print it, just says, hey, there's nothing in there. That's null. That's what null means. There's nothing there. I could say names square bracket 0 equals Hayes, and then when I print name square bracket 0, I'd get what was in there. Owen.
Did you print multiple of brackets by the 0 equal like comma 1?
No, it's a good question. And in fact, let's print just names itself and see what happens. So notice I took away the square bracket 0. When you print an array, any kind of array, if you just try to print the array, you're going to get the memory location. This sort of nonsense. The @ with the numbers and stuff. And so that's useless. The way you print an array is you make a for loop. So let's write that down. To print an array, use a for loop. So int I equals 0 works fine. I less than, and here's where you need to know. Like in this case, we know the array is 5 elements, but it's good to, in general, be using this property called length. It's like this. Run that. So we should get Hayes and then null, null, null. Also, I gotta get rid of that one. Yeah.
Why do you not do the 2 parentheses after length?
You can't put it here. Yeah. So right here, everybody, where it says length, this is we now have 2 different types of length. We have the length of an array, which is just dot length. It's not a method. It's, I'm going to say, a property of the array. And then the other kind of length we have is a string length, which is dot length with parentheses, which is a method. This isn't a method, so you don't have parentheses after it. It's confusing, but so we made an array with five elements. I just set one of them to be my name, and then I printed them all with this for loop. I could put spaces here so it's easier to read. And you see down here we get my name and then 4 nulls because there's nothing in those other ones. If, just by accident, you try to access an element beyond the length of the array, you get a crash. So I'll show you that. Names, I'm going to say names 5 equals Santa Claus. Santa Claus is real, by the way. Boom! Wait, Java says Santa's not real. Sorry. Exception in thread main, java.lang.array index out of bounds exception. So if you get this error, usually JGrasp will show you what the number was that caused the error. In this case, it was 5. And you say, well, I thought this had 5 elements. Remember, they go from 0 to 4, just like the characters in a string. I think if you, I haven't tried this specifically, but I'm going to try -1, and I think we'll get the same error. And this time it'll show a -1 here. So sometimes this helps when you're debugging, like you're running your code and you get a crash and you're like, what? And then you look over here, it says out of bounds exception 45, and you go, okay, well that's a clue. That means I tried to access element 45 of my array. So don't just blow all the errors off. It can actually be quite helpful. You go 45. It's like I'm smoking crack. Yeah.
While you're on that, it shows you the line number, and if you do Control L, it will show you the line numbers.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
That's even better.
Yeah,
Thank you. Right here, notes.java:11. That's the line number. And Control L shows you the line number. Thank you. That's awesome. I didn't know it was so easy to. I knew we could turn on line numbers, but I didn't know it was so easy. All right. Doing great. Folks, we got another way to create arrays. And it's called an Array Initializer. Wow. So we'll just do the same name array. I'll get rid of that thing. An array initializer is when you use curly brackets and you say exactly what's going to go into this array. So you put it, individual items are separated by commas. So I just made an array with 3 names in it. And this is called using an array initializer as opposed to using the new keyword and just saying how big the array is going to be. This kind of does it all at once. So if you know what's going to be in an array, this is awesome. If you had in a list of integers, you could just have commas between them. You don't put quotes around them if they're integers. If you had booleans, it would be false, true, false, 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 true with commas in between. This code should run and print because we made it, oh, except for my Santa Claus. Yeah, here we go. So, see, this is also another benefit of using names.length instead of having hard-coded it at 5, because if I had hard-coded it at 5, then when I change the array, maybe I wouldn't remember, and then you run it and it crashes. So, I know there's lots of times when you could just say, hey, I is less than 3 here, and it'll work fine. But then let's say you add another name, Claus, or Klaus, and when we run it this time, oh, well, since I made it bigger, it didn't hurt. If I made it smaller, though. Anyway, you get the idea. You want to not, most of the time, it's just good practice to say names.length or whatever your array name is, .length. Okay, so this, you can use an array initializer for strings. You can do it for ints. Just like that. You can do it for booleans. You literally just have the words false, true, boolean passing equals true, true, false, true, true. I'm just showing you different ways to create arrays. Yeah?
Can you do like the 1 and 0 thing?
You mean put a 1 here instead of a true? I don't know. Probably not. It says incompatible types. Int cannot be converted to Boolean. So no. But remember, they're initialized to false by default. So, you typically would just have a for loop that went through and did things. All right, so let's go back to scores. Now, you can access everything. I showed you how you can print everything in an array. Let's change this to scores. And in fact, I'm going to make it print all on one line. Like this. And then print a blank line again. So this will print out the scores all in a little line. I'm asking you to do this sort of thing in our coding activity in just a minute. So here we made an array, and here we're printing everything in the array with the space between each item, and then we print a blank line at the end so that the next thing doesn't print over here. Now, if you want to change or access elements in the array, you could do that with a for loop programmatically. So let's say we wanted to add a point to every score in the array. I'll add curly brackets. And you can say right here, scores, square bracket I equals scores, square bracket I plus 1. And then I'm going to cut that. So see, we're going through the whole array from start to finish, and we're adding 1 to everything. And I know I could print it in the same for loop, but I just want you to I want you to remember that you can all. I wanted to be clear about what was happening. So system.out.print scores I plus a space. So we go through the. It used to be 99, 78, 55, and now it's 100, 79, 56. I mean, whoa, we changed all the scores, but I want you to see if you need to do something to everything, whether it's go through and see what the biggest number is, or add something to every number, you just make a for loop, and then you can access each element that way. I'm going to, questions? I want to, I'm going to say, got another example. Sorry. If I wanted to make everything in the array uppercase, I just wanted to show you a more, I mean, a lot of times people have trouble with uppercase things. But see, I made this array. Obviously, this would be silly to code. If I wanted them all uppercase, I would have just typed this in uppercase and that uppercase. But let's say you're getting data from the user, filling up an array with values, and then you want to go through and make sure everything's uppercase. This would do it. See, I'm saying names, square bracket I, names sub I, equals name sub I dot to uppercase. And then, I mean, that's a pretty simple way to do that. Let's see, it's complaining about that 2. What's it complaining about? Oh, it's in the wrong place. No. Then I just wanted to print it so you could see that it actually worked. There you go. We're almost done, so thanks for hanging in there. I'm sorry to talk so long today. The last thing is arrays aren't limited to strings and ints and doubles, and booleans. You can make arrays of anything. Custom objects. So like, you just wrote the bicycle class. You could, if you had the bicycle file handy, you could say bicycle array, my bikes equals new bicycle 3. I have 3 bikes, and then you could access the bicycles. Bicycles square bracket 0 would be the first bike, and so on. Yes, Ian.
Can you make an array of arrays?
You can. In fact, in a month we're going to learn 2-dimensional arrays, which is basically that. Each row is what?
3-dimensional arrays.
Yeah, you can do more. You don't have to for the AP test. So, it sort of blows my mind to get past 2-dimensional arrays, but I'd like to try it sometime. 10-dimensional. What happened to Mr. Hayes? He thought too much. So, if well, I think that's all I want to say. I want you to know clearly from the beginning that arrays are not just ints and strings. In today's coding assignment, that follows, I ask you to make an array of frogs, and then to make each frog hop a different number of times, and to print them all out. And you'll see I give you the frog class in the assignment file. So I think that'll do it. Any questions? All right, so let's work on, it's called day 46, basics. And there's a bunch of things in there, so do your best. Just do them one at a time. If you're stuck, obviously ask for help, and we'll see how it goes.